Okay, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Salatu Wassalamu ala Rasulillah. اللهم لا سهل الا ما جعلته سهلا وانت تجعل الحزن اذا شئت سهلا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Just a reminder that if you have any question, because today's lesson is directed about lots of female issues, which usually there will be lots of questions about them. So if you have any question, please post it on the website, which is mycbox.us/the-night-fiqh. So any question, please post it there. I will just focus more today on this matter, and then inshallah we'll start with the salah from next week. Today we'll take some portion of the salah. Okay. I will try to focus on some terminologies first. Today's topic is menstruation, Nafas, and Transcendence. Okay. So, in Islam, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned about cases of menstruation, and for the Nafas is as we are going to see in details, is a word that I did not find an English translation to it, which is the period of time after delivery until the stopping of the blood. I found the word transcendence for what we call in Islam istihad, and we are going to come to each terminology of these and what are the rulings for each one and some complex situations for each one. So, we start saying bloods that exit from women are of three types: menstruation, transcendence, and nafas. Menstruation and nafas, are due to healthy body, just delivery or the monthly period. While transcendence, which is istihada, is due to sickness or something abnormal happening. So for now, we understand that menstruation and nafas can come from any healthy person, but transcendence can come from unhealthy person. Menstruation is the blood coming out during health from the bottom of the womb without delivery or sickness and at certain time. So that definition, when the scholars they put the definition, each word has actually specific reason for it to be in this place. So we are speaking about blood and coming out during health. So that blood is not coming during sickness. So if the woman was in a sickness time and blood coming out, that's not considered menstruation. From the bottom of the womb. So if a blood coming from the top of the womb, so the doctor said that there is something at the top of the womb of the woman and the blood is coming from there, that's not menstruation. So not every blood is actually menstruation. Without delivery, because we will have blood coming out due to delivery. So that blood, the menstruation without delivery or sickness, and it comes at certain time. And we will speak about details. The scholars, they mentioned that the color of that blood during menstruation can be blackish, and it's hot in temperature, and painful, and smelly. So that's how the woman will differentiate or understand that this is menstruation blood. The Prophet ﷺ said, this is something Allah wrote down on the daughters of Adam. So this is something Allah Azza wa Jal wrote down. That's why if you open the fiqh books that speak about menstruation and transcendence and nafas, it's actually a lot. Like this lesson was prepared from over maybe 150 pages of what the scholars, they discussed details of the details of each thing. And this is something really makes us feel proud that our religion is tackling all the details of our life and trying to find solutions. It's time from puberty until old age. We call it the age of give up, or the age of when the menstruation stops at, for example, some of the scholars, they emphasize it's 55 years old, some said 45 years old, but it starts from the age of puberty. And the minimum age of puberty, they are assigned as 9 years. And that differs actually between countries. So the countries that are hot, the girls can actually reach the puberty at the age of 9. But the countries that are cold, the girls can reach puberty at the age of 15 or 16. So it's different between the countries. But the menstruation time is from the age of puberty until the age where there is no menstruation anymore. At the age of puberty, when the girl starts having her menstruation, then the girl becomes accountable on that day. The days before, she is not accountable. The day of menstruation, and it's the same like the day of puberty for the boys, when they see the semen, then that day they start being accountable. Like the boy becomes accountable when he sees the semen. Puberty happens at the age of 15 if no blood or semen been seen. Meaning that the girl hasn't seen any blood, she reaches age of 15, she did not see blood, puberty happens by age. But normally it happens by seeing the blood. And so accountability as well happens by the age of 15, even if the girls or the boys did not see the signs of puberty. Scholars discuss that there are several colors that the blood of menstruation can come off, can come with black, red, yellow, or gray. How does the woman know, as we are going to see in some of the hadith, how does the woman know that the menstruation finished? It cannot be known as finished except after wiping toilet papers, for example, to come out with clean white toilet paper. So the only time the woman will know actually that the menstruation has stopped and she needs to start praying, she needs to have a shower on that, is the time when actually she's wiping and the toilet paper is coming back clean. So no signs, not even yellowish color, not even grayish color, it's totally clean. We'll go through some of the rulings after speaking about some hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Narrated Aisha, while in menses, I used to comb the hair of Allah's Messenger. And that's a very important matter. In the time of Jahiliyyah, the time before Islam, they used to actually isolate the women when they are in the time of menses or menstruation. But Islam came to give respect to the women, even at that time. That's something that was written, as the Prophet ﷺ said, it was written on the sun, on the women, to have that for their life. So the Prophet ﷺ used to sit down actually and allow Aisha to comb the hair of the Prophet ﷺ while she is in the menstruation. So that doesn't mean anything. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet ﷺ used to lean on my lap and recite Quran while I was in my menstruation, my menses. So that's another indicator that the Prophet ﷺ used to actually to lean on her lap and recite Quran while she's in menstruation. So it's something that is out of the control of the woman. Narrated Umm Salama, while I was laying with the Prophet ﷺ under a single woolen sheet, I got the menses. I slipped away and put on the clothes for menses. He said, have you got Nafas, menses? I replied, yes. He then called me and made me lie with him under the same sheet. So that's all to give you an indicator that our beloved Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to treat the women in a good way, even at the time of menses. And we should not, actually, as men, look at this other than this has been written on the women of our human beings, and that we should respect it and we should treat it in a respectful way, as the Prophet ﷺ used to treat. And you look at the event of Salama, how she was shy, she left the bed, and the Prophet ﷺ called her back and sleep under the same blanket. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet ﷺ and I used to take a bath from a single pot while we were junub during the menses. He used to order me to put on an izar, a dress. So Aisha is saying that during the menses, he used to order me to put an izar. It's a dress worn below the waist, and used to fondle me. While in i'tikaf, he used to bring his head near me, and I would wash it while I used to be in my period or menses. All of this to give us again that there is no such thing as isolating in the time of the menses. No, the Prophet ﷺ was very sensitive and very caring, and he used to actually continue his normal life apart from what is prohibited during menses. Narrated Aisha, Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh said to the Allah Messenger ﷺ, O Allah's Messenger, I do not become clean from bleeding. That's another thing. So she used to have blood 24/7, all the time. Shall I give up my prayers? Allah's Messenger replied, no, because it's from a blood vessel and not the menses. So when the real menses begins, give up your prayers. And when it has finished, wash the blood of your body and offer your prayers. So this is a hadith to tell us that actually, even we have lots of cases where women, they have blood during the whole month. That doesn't mean that it's all menses. That doesn't mean that they give up prayer or they give up fasting. No, they must actually differentiate, and we are going to speak about how to differentiate, and then after that they can offer prayers. And look how the Prophet ﷺ said, it's a blood vessel and not the menses. So the Prophet ﷺ even, who taught him about medicine? Who taught him that a blood vessel inside the womb can actually cause that? It's only Allah Azza wa Jalla. Narrated Aisha, the women used to send her the rags with yellowish and grayish color in order to consult her whether my period finished or my menses finished or not. And she used to say to them not to rush and wait until they see the white color. It has a name in Arabic, but I did not find any translation, direct translation. But the women know that actually the menses stops the day when they wipe, they see a full white color. So long as there is some yellowish, that's still in the menses time. They cannot pray, they cannot have a shower for the sake of removing janaba, they cannot have anything. They cannot fast. The moment they see it coming back white color, that's the moment the menses actually finished. Narrated Atiyah, we never considered yellowish discharge as a thing of importance as menses after being clean. So this hadith to tell us that sometimes the women will be in their menses, and then what happens? They get clean, they see the sign that they are clean, and then after 3-4 days, they see some yellowish color coming out. Here it comes to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Atiyya, and all of these hadith I picked them from Bukhari that speak only about the menstruation. Atiyya was saying we did not used to consider the yellowish color from menstruation after getting clean. So after getting clean and seeing the sign and the white came from the toilet paper, then anything after that is not considered anything. So the woman will not say, no, my menses is again. No, continue. Just continue praying and fasting. Now, the duration. How long is the menstruation? And this is always a sort of questionable thing. The start of it is always clear. So the woman will see the menstruation, you will see the blood, and that's the starting time of it. Let me just focus here on something. If the woman started menstruation, for example, after Dhuhr, but she did not pray actually, Dhuhr. But the menstruation came 1 hour after Dhuhr. So she had actually enough time to pray Dhuhr. She did not pray. Her menses came. That Dhuhr is in her neck. She needs to pray. But she cannot pray, obviously. So she needs to make up. Okay, that's number one. Number two. If a woman saw the white cloth, let me call it the white cloth, which is when she wipes, for example, using toilet paper and it comes up white completely. If the woman actually saw the white cloth and that white cloth came, for example, after Dhuhr. Now, within the time of Dhuhr, she has to pray Dhuhr. If she saw it after Asr, the scholars, they said, she prays. That's how it should be. She prays Dhuhr and Asr. Why? Because that might be a mistake from her. Because Dhuhr and Asr are close time. It might be a mistake from her. She did not check or something. That's why it might have been at Dhuhr time. And she was busy, she was cooking, she was. And then she checked after Asr and she found that she is off from her menses. But it's not actually confirmed whether it was now or maybe at the Dhuhr time, but she did not check. That's why the scholars, they said, usually the women, when they see the end of their menses at the Asr time, they pray Dhuhr and Asr. If they see at Isha time, they pray Maghrib and Isha. If they see at Maghrib, they pray only Maghrib. If they see at Isha, they pray Maghrib and Isha. If they see at Fajr, it's only Fajr. It's only just because these two prayers, as we know, that we can join them. In the Sunday traveling, we join them. During the hardship, we join them and we do Qasr.
Obaydah, if you see in Isha time, Maghrib she should have prayed.
No, if you see the cleanliness.
Yeah, on
she
Isha.
was in her menses and she saw the cleanliness sign in Isha, so she needs to start praying. So what should she start praying? She makes up Maghrib and prays. That's a sort of just in case she did not actually check at the time. Now, duration of menstruation, the scholars, they said that the least number of days is 1 day, 24 hours. And there are cases where women actually, they have their menses only for 1 day and doesn't require flowing of the blood, but it's enough to have it on the rag when wiping. So these people who sometimes their body is actually not having normal menses, it's only some small amount of blood coming out, and that blood doesn't need actually to flow. It can be just seen on the rags when wiping. If the blood was less than 24 hours, then it is transcendence. Transcendence, which is the istihada, we will speak about it. So usually, the least amount which is acceptable as a menstruation is 24 hours. That's if actually the woman is seeing that on a regular basis. Every month, on the specific day, only 24 hours she sees the blood. Normally, the women are 6 or 7 days. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you will menstruate in the knowledge of Allah 6 or 7, then shower and pray 24 or 23 days, and they're nice, and that's sufficient for you. We know that the women don't need to make up the prayer of these days, but they need to make up the fasting of these days. So the Prophet ﷺ, even in his authentic hadith, he mentioned that the normal of the women is 6 or 7. But some women are more, some women are less, and we will speak about some details. So, we said that the menstruation is the blood that is coming out during specific time. There is a difference when the woman is having blood at not the same times that she is having the blood for her menses. She needs to check the color, the intensity, and the smell. And that should be a sign for her to differentiate between the blood of the menses and the blood of transcendence. The blood of transcendence, it's just a blood that, like when I have a cut in my hand, I will have just a normal blood. And the transcendence blood is coming from the womb, from just a wound inside the womb. The minimum clean days between two menstruation is 15 days. So the women that have their period, the maximum number of days are allowed based on that is 15. So the maximum allowed number of days for period for the woman is 15. So she will be 15 days on period or menses, and then 15 days on cleanliness, and she can pray and she can fast. So that there are some women like this, their menses is 15 days. But it cannot be more than 15 days. The menses cannot be more than 50 days. If it is more than 50 days, any day beyond the 15 is considered transcendence. Two signs of cleanliness from menstruation. Either stopping the blood or, as I said, the white rag. So the white rag, some women actually, they see the white rag. So they see the white liquid, white thin liquid, which we call the white rag, that Aisha radiallahu anha mentioned about it. But some women, they don't see that. It will depend on the type of the body of the woman, but some women, the sign is actually the blood will stop. So the woman will know herself, she will know that she is from type 1 or from type 2, and that needs to be her indicator about the menses end. If a woman saw a clean day during her menstruation period, this is considered menstruation. Sometimes the woman will be, she knows that it's 7 days, after 3 days, 4 days, she saw one clean day. And then the blood came again. That's considered menstruation. She cannot pray, she cannot fast. She knows that this is part of her menstruation. So that's for the menstruation. And if you have, because there are lots of complex situations, and these situations are dealt with case by case. So usually, for example, my reference for this is a scholar who is a female doctor. What do you call the female doctor in English?
Gynecologist.
Gynecologist. He's a gynecologist and he is a scholar. So he actually knows how to differentiate whether this is a menstruation or this is transcendence or this is any other blood. And usually when it comes to questions that come to me that are according to the rulings, what has been said by the scholars, it should be straightforward. But usually when there are some complex questions, I will just send him the question, and then he will reply according to his knowledge. And that's how we should always deal with things like complex things, especially when it comes to specific questions. We should deal according to the specialized people who have the knowledge in Islam and at the same time have the knowledge in this aspect. So we don't come to someone, for example, if wherever a question comes to me, for example, about transactions, financial transactions, I will refer to specific scholar who is specialized in that. And that's how it should be dealt with. Nafas. Nafas, as I said, I did not see any English word for nafas. It's the blood after delivering a baby. Blood during or before delivery is not, and the woman should pray. Okay, so what can we understand from this? That sometimes the woman will be delivering a baby. She is still before delivery. She is seeing contractions, but nothing happened. So it's not actually actual delivery, but it's pre-delivery signs. And some blood will come out before delivery. That blood coming out is not a nafas. And it's not menstruation. So the woman should actually pray. And if a woman missed some prayers, and this should be actually considered with the women, when they are in the time of labor and delivering, they need to look after their prayers. So, for example, if she delivered after Dhuhr, but the delivery actually itself, the baby started coming out before Dhuhr, then that's not a problem. If she had time to pray Dhuhr or Asr or whatever, but she did not pray from the pain or from, she was thinking that the blood that is coming out pre-labor is going to prevent her from prayer, then we need to reconsider that, and we need actually to pray these prayers. So the scholars, they say differentiate between the blood that is coming during delivery or pre-delivery. So they consider the blood that is after delivering a baby is the nafas blood, during delivery or before delivery is not. Okay, and we should consider the prayers. Minimum time is a moment. Some women actually, they deliver the baby and they will have just for a couple of moments, she will have the blood and the blood will just cut. And they even call these women a specific name. They call her the dry woman, meaning that she doesn't have actually blood after delivery. The normal is 40 days and the maximum is 60 days. What does it mean? It means that a woman who delivered the baby and she actually saw the blood up to 60 days after delivery, that's considered nafas, and she cannot pray or fast. She can, if the blood went beyond 60 days, she needs to stop. And she needs to start praying and fasting, and we will speak about how she needs to actually deal with the situation. Salama radiallahu anha said, the woman at the time of the Prophet ﷺ used to stay in nafas for 40 days and nights. And that's the general ruling. But that doesn't mean that the woman can have actually nafas for less than 40 days. Usually, some women will come for 20 days, 15 days, 30 days. It's not a single number, and it's not should not be considered that at 40 days I will stop and start. No, it's the same signs. We consider the same situation, checking until the blood stops, and then we'll start the cleanliness and start praying and start fasting, even if it's less than 40 days. 40 days is the general ruling. Like the menstruation, 6 to 7 days is the general ruling, but every woman is different than that. Rules of menstruation and nafas. Because menstruation and nafas are coming from healthy body. They don't require any sickness in the body or any problem in the body. That's normal thing that happens. Of course, menstruation and nafas require ghusl after the blood stops. So the moment we know the signs that the blood stopped, then menstruation, then the ghusl is obligation on the woman in order to pray or to fast. Accountability, as we said, the moment the woman reaches the menstruation, or if she is pregnant and she gets the blood of nafas, then this is considered accountability. Judgment that the womb is clean from any pregnancy during iddah. So this is another thing, that divorce, for example, the Prophet ﷺ, one companion came to him and he divorced his wife while she is in the menses time. So he asked him to return his wife and then divorce her while she is clean. It is very important to understand that this type of divorce, the scholars they call it divorce of bid'ah. So a bid'ah divorce. The divorce, for example, is related to the pregnancy and the menstruation. If any divorce needs to happen, it needs to happen during the clean days. Cannot be during the menstruation days. Inshallah, nobody will see divorce. But this is something that even Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in the Quran. For the iddah as well, iddah of the one who is divorced or iddah of the one who her husband passed away, it's based on the actual menstruation times. So, and the scholars differed whether it's the beginning of the menstruation or the end of the menstruation, which is the beginning of the cleanliness. But the majority, it's the beginning of the cleanliness is what is considered. Kafara for intercourse during menstruation, the scholars mentioned about what is the kafara of if someone, because during menstruation, intercourse is not allowed. So what is the kafara of that? Well, there is a difference in opinion. Scholars said there is no kafara. He needs to repent sincerely about that. Scholars, they said, no, there is a kafara. Some scholars said it's 1 dinar at their time. Some said it's half a dinar. It's like feeding a miskin or a poor person. So it's better, of course, this is something Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, that we should not come close to intercourse while the woman is in the menstruation time. So it's prohibited and it's a sin. What is haram during menstruation and nafas? So haram during menstruation and nafas, ghusl or wudu. But you can have a shower. If you want, sister, can you write on the, and we will answer all the questions at the end. I'm leaving more time for this because I know lots of questions. So the woman can take a ghusl at that time, but that ghusl is not ghusl for cleanliness. That's not allowed. That's haram. Or take a wudu, haram, during the menstruation time or during the nafas time. It's haram for her to pray. It's not allowed. It's haram for her to fast. It's haram for her to do tawaf. It's haram for her to read the Quran on her tongue, or touch the Quran, or carry the Quran. Some scholars, they said only for the woman who is a teacher, or only for the woman who is memorized already the Quran, and she's afraid that 40 days, for example, of nafas, after delivering the baby, she is not going to revise her Quran, so she might lose the Quran, or 7 days, 8 days during the menstruation, she might forget. They said only these cases are allowed. So that's not all the scholars, that's some of the scholars. We'll accept that, but it is not allowed for the woman in menstruation and nafas to read Quran or touch Quran or read the Quran. entering the masjid, staying in it, doing i'tikaf, it should not be. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, except if the masjid is in your pathway, and that should be okay. Intercourse is haram. Touching between the belly and the knee is haram. If an intercourse happened during menstruation, no kaffara according to the majority, it's 1 dinar or half a dinar according to Imam. Divorce during menstruation is haram. But if it happened, it's applied. As I said, the scholars they call it as a bid'ah divorce, but it's acceptable. It is haram divorce, but it is going to be implemented. If the divorce happened during menstruation. Coming to the third topic, which is transcendence, which is seeing the blood outside the time of nafas, this is the typo, nafas or menstruation. And that's due to sickness or bleeding from a blood vessel at the bottom of the womb. So this is a different type. What are these? All blood before puberty. So a girl saw blood at the age of 8, at the age of 7, that's called transcendence. So it's not going to stop her from praying or fasting. If it is less than 1 day, which is the least number of days, or it's more than 15 days for menstruation, or 60 days for nafas. Any blood that comes out after 15 days of menstruation or after 60 days, this is transcendence. Or more than normal menstruation and normal 15 days. So usually there are some cases where actually a woman that sees her menstruation consistent, for example 6 days or 7 days, and on this date starts, on this date finishes, and she will know exactly when is the menstruation starting and when it's finishing. And then at some stage, that 6 days, after maybe 15 years, 10 years, the same rhythm, that 6 days became 10 days. At these stages, these 3 days need to be changed. And they might be considered as transcendence according to the signs that we are going to see. What is the ruling of transcendence? Well, nothing is prohibited due to menstruation is prohibited due to transcendence. Meaning that the woman during this time can pray, can fast, can touch the Quran, can read Quran, can do everything. There is nothing prohibited during transcendence. Obligation during transcendence to make wudu for each prayer. So what is the obligation? As the Prophet ﷺ mentioned to one of his wives, to actually wash herself and tie something on herself to stop the blood, and then make wudu for each prayer. Meaning that the woman in that transcendence time, which is the extra blood that is outside the menstruation or the nafas, what she needs to do is she needs to make one wudu per salah, per prayer. And during that, she can pray as many sunnah as she wants. She can read the Quran, she can touch the Quran, and she can do everything. The woman in transcendence can pray whatever she wants within the time of one obligatory prayer. Can someone remind us what is similar to this with each, I don't want to call it wudu, you can pray one fard and as many sunnah as you want. Tayammum. Exactly like that. So, but here she needs to actually make wudu, full wudu, and then pray the fard and as many sunnahs as she wants. And then when the time for the next prayer comes, she needs to wash herself and put something to stop the blood, and then pray, make wudu. Some scholars said also for each salah, but this is actually just the minority. The majority is just wudu for each salah. How to differentiate whether this blood is menstruation or this blood is transcendence? Number one criteria is the blood color. So the menstruation is normally black, and we spoke about different types of colors, while transcendence is just normal blood color, which is red. So the woman can actually, sometimes she knows that this is a blood, which is a menstruation blood, and usually her blood is 7 days, and then after the 7 days, she saw pure red color blood. And she differentiated that this blood actually is a normal blood, it's not a menstruation blood. Then at that time she needs to have shower, and she needs to start praying. Even if the blood is continuing, because that's not a blood of menstruation. It needs to stop. She can build on normal days. So if she is confused, this is blood of menstruation or blood of just transcendence, so she can build on her normality. So the normal days is from the 10th of each month, I will have my menses. Then she will consider, and then 17, I finish my menses. She will consider the normal days that she is using. Or using the 6 or 7 days, which are normal for all the women. And that's how the woman is going to differentiate between the menses or the transcendence. So, anyone now has a question about this topic? Did you write, Sister Rabia, did you write the question on the website, or you want to ask it?
No, I just want to ask you about this. So what happens if we think that this is a menses, but after just few days we realize this is not menses blood? So do we have to pray back for what it means?
Yes. If you, for example, thought that this is menses, and then you are sure that it is not. After 2 days, you are sure that this is not. So you need to make up the days, because that's a mistake. But Allah will not hold you accountable, because this is a mistake. And Allah will not hold you accountable for the mistake. Sister Rabia, did you write your on the mobile or the?
What's the website?
Okay. What's the website? Okay.
Do you want me to write it? About Obaydah?
Yes.
Do you want me to write it?
It's mycbox. Okay, mycbox.ws. Okay, there's a hadith that says that touching the private part without desire doesn't invalidate wudu, as the private part is of our body. Is this correct? Okay, there are two hadiths actually. One hadith says one person came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him about touching the private part, and he said, "Make wudu." One person came and said touching the private part, and he said, "No need for wudu." And these two hadiths are authentic hadiths. And the scholars, they mentioned that the first one was a youth, a youngster, and the second one was an old man. So that's why those who came and said it's about desire or whatever, that's where they are coming from. So you can use the same criteria that the Prophet ﷺ did, which is if there is a young person touching the private part will move the desire, then making wudu is better. And following the ruling that making wudu is required is better. But if it is an old person who already the desire stopped, then that doesn't mean that he needs to move. If nobody wrote down, anyone has any question for a move? Yes.
With transcendence, are you allowed to fast?
You have to fast. You have to fast, you have to pray, you have to do normal things. Yes.
What is the term in Arabic of transcendence?
istihada.
That's right. Istihada.
Sister Rabia,
Yes.
you want to ask?
Yeah, I want to ask. In women, it's not always a certain amount of days, so sometimes it's irregular. So it can be 7 days, can be 10 days, and from month to month they never know how many days their menses is going to be. So what if they have a white rag or the white days? They think their period has finished, their menses has finished. They have the mandi wajib, they have their compulsory shower, and then they pray, and then they have intercourse with their husband. After that, like 1 or 2 hours later, their menses starts again. So is the act with the husband and the prayer, is it haram or is it forgivable?
It's not haram because she took all the means and she did the right thing, meaning that she checked the signs that the menses already stopped. So she took the shower and everything continued normal. Then after 1 or 2 days, as we said in the hadith of Salama, that we would not consider after the signs coming to us that the yellowish, that this is actually from menstruation or from menses. So if it is just yellowish color coming, then that's not going to be a menses. That's continuing as a cleanliness. But if it is blood again, for example, she's irregular, sometimes 6 days, sometimes 10 days, sometimes 5 days. Then at some stage it came 6 days, then it cut for 1 day, and then came back again at day 7, and that's menstruation. That's menses. Okay. So if any question like this comes, then you can actually later on either message me or message my wife, and we will get the answer inshallah for any question. Okay? So we jump to the second topic, which is salah. The Prophet ﷺ said, and this is a long hadith in Bukhari, while I was at Mecca, the roof of my house was open, and Jibreel descended, opened my chest, washed it with Zamzam water, then he brought a golden tray full of wisdom and faith, and having poured its content in my chest, he closed it. Then he took my hand and ascended with me to the nearest heaven. Okay. Is this while he was young? We know that there was an incident when he was a kid, that his chest was open, when he was at the time of breastfeeding with, what's the name of his? Halimatu Sa'diyya. So at that time, the angels actually took him down and opened his chest and washed his heart. So this is another one. This is when he was in Mecca at the time of after Islam. So after the 40 years old. And we can know now, after we finish what is this, we can know actually at what age was that. Then he took my hand and ascended with me to the nearest heaven. When I reached the nearest heaven, Jibreel said to the gatekeeper of the heaven, "Open the gate." The gatekeeper asked, "Who is it?" Jibreel answered, "Jibreel." He asked, "Is there anyone with you?" Jibreel replied, "Yes, Muhammad is with me." He asked, "Has he been called meaning has he become a prophet? So Jibreel said, yes. So the gate was opened and we went over to the nearest heaven. And there we saw a man sitting with some people on his right and some on his left. When he looked towards his right, he laughed. And when he looked towards his left, he wept. Then he said, "Welcome, O pious prophet and pious son." I asked Jibreel, "Who is he?" He replied, "He is Adam. And the people on his right and left are the souls of his offspring. Those on his right are the people of paradise, and those on his left are the people of hell. And when he looks towards his right, he laughs, and when he looks towards his left, he weeps." Then he ascended with me till he reached the second heaven. And he, Jibreel, said to its gatekeeper, "Open the gate." The gatekeeper said to him, the same as the gatekeeper of the first heaven, and he opened the gate. Anas said, Abu Dhar added that the Prophet met Adam, Idris, Moses, Jesus, and Ibrahim. He, Abu Dhar, did not mention on which heaven they were, but he mentioned that he, the Prophet ﷺ, met Adam on the nearest heaven and Ibrahim on the sixth heaven. Anas said, when Jibreel along with the Prophet passed by Idris, the latter said, "Welcome, O pious Prophet and pious brother." The Prophet asked, "Who is he?" Jibreel said, "He is Idris." The Prophet added, "I passed by Moses, and he said, 'Welcome, O pious Prophet and pious brother.' I asked, 'Who is he?' Jibreel replied, 'He is Moses.' Then I passed by Jesus, and he said, 'Welcome, O pious brother and pious prophet.' I asked, 'Who is he?' Jibreel replied, 'He is Jesus.' Then I passed by Ibrahim, and he said, 'Welcome, O pious prophet and pious son.' I asked Jibreel, 'Who is he?' He replied, 'He is Ibrahim.' The Prophet ﷺ added, then Jibreel ascended with me to a place where I heard the creaking of the pens. Ibn Hazm and Anas bin Malik said, the Prophet ﷺ said, then Allah joined 50 prayers on my followers. So this is the first time that the prayer was made obligation. So this is the time of Isra and Mi'raj. When was Isra and Mi'raj? Seven of Rajab? Okay. I'm speaking about years. So the Prophet ﷺ received his prophethood at the age of 40. When after that, actually the Isra and Mi'raj happened? Do you remember? The majority of scholars, they say it's 5 years before the migration. So it's around 8 years after the prophethood. So he was around 48 years. So that's the time. We all know that at the beginning, the prayer was 50 prayers on my followers. When I returned with this order of Allah, I passed by Moses, who asked me what Allah has enjoined on your followers. I replied, He has enjoined 50 prayers on them. Moses said, go back to your Lord and appeal for reduction, for your followers will not be able to bear it. Imagine if we had now 50 prayers a day. So I went back to Allah and requested for reduction, and he reduced it to half. When I passed by Moses again, he informed him about it. He said, go back to your Lord, as your followers will not be able to bear it. So I returned to Allah Azza wa Jal. So I returned to Allah Azza wa Jal and requested for further reduction, and half of it was reduced. I again passed by Moses, and he said to return to your Lord, for your followers will not be able to bear it. So I returned to Allah, and he said, these are 5 prayers, and they are all equal to 50 in reward, for my words does not change. I returned to Moses, and he told me to go back once again. I replied, now I feel shy of asking my Lord again. And Jibreel took me till we reached Sidrat al-Muntaha, lot 3 of the utmost boundary, which was shrouded in color, indescribable. Then I was admitted into paradise, where I found small tents or walls made of pearls, and its air was of musk. So this is the time when the prayer was actually made an obligation, and this is the long hadith of the Isra and Mi'raj of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So from next time, inshallah, we'll start with the details of the prayer. Just a quick one. So what is the definition of the prayer? The scholars have said, pray or salat is a specific sayings and acts that start with takbir and finish with taslim. The obligation of prayer on each individual is known, and it was made obligatory in the night of Isra and Mi'raj, which is 5 years before the migration to Medina. So that's for today. If anyone has any question. Okay, if no question, then inshallah we'll see you next week. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك